answering your tough financial questions for the past 26 years. It's Allworth's Money Matters with co-hosts Scott Hanson and Pat McClain. Would you like an opinion on a financial matter you're dealing with? Whether it's about retirement, investments, taxes, or 401ks, Scott Hanson and Pat McClain would like to help you by answering your call. To join Allworth's Money Matters, call now at 833-99-WORTH. That's 833-99-WORTH.
Welcome to Allworth's Money Matters. I'm Scott Hanson.
I'm Pat McClain.
Glad you are with us as we talk about financial matters. Both myself and my co-host here, we're both financial planners. And I think that's probably the best choice to use, financial planners. We've been doing this program for over 25 years and been practicing advisors for roughly 30. And I think financial planning, it's interesting because Morningstar did a study. Morningstar is the big research firm and that analyzes mutual funds and stocks. And Morningstar did a big study, and Vanguard, the big mutual fund giant, did a study on what value a financial advisor can bring. And the value that the study was not so much on the investment portfolios. That was relatively small.
But there can be value there.
The value came in mainly two other areas. One is the financial planning around the investment management. What goes in an IRA? What goes inside a Roth? How do we have our money set up outside of those retirement vehicles? What income streams do we have in retirement? Which accounts do we take them from? How do we sequence those things? When do we start Social Security? All those other areas, that was the largest piece of value that was added. And another piece was the behavioral finance aspect. That's keeping people from making mistakes from which they cannot recover.
Scott, and I agree with those studies, but those were looking at people that were real financial advisors, not people that just called themselves financial advisors.
That's why I said financial planners, certified financial planners.
Okay.
So, yes.
Because
real
people
planning.
Call themselves financial planners and they're
financial
salespeople.
advisors, yes.
And they're salespeople.
That's correct. Doesn't take much. Anyone can say they're financial advisor.
Yes. They're salespeople. And you want an advisor. You want someone that actually says, you need this is why you're doing it. This is how you save for the kids' education. You should get rid of this mortgage. This is why you should. That's what a good advisor does.
All that good stuff. So if you want to join us, we'd love to take a call from you and answer a question that you're going to bring our way. 833-99-WORTH is our contact number. Be part of Allworth's Money Matters. 833-999-6784. And we're starting right off in Northern California with Gina. Gina, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi.
Hi, Gina.
So my question is, currently I'm 61. I'm planning to retire in about 4 years. I have a 401k, an IRA, and I will be getting pension and Social Security. So my question is about my pension. I can either take a lump sum payment of approximately $785,000 and reinvest those monies, or I can take monthly payments of approximately $5,000 a month for the rest of my life. The monthly payments does not have any cost of living or inflationary increases, so that's a set amount. And when I die, since I'm single, my payments will stop and my two adult children receive nothing, whereas if I take the lump sum, I can reinvest and my children would be able to inherit what is left over.
So, Gina?
So I'm not sure whether I need to take the lump sum
Gina?
or... Yeah,
And this is a decision you're going to be making 4 years from now.
correct.
Okay.
And the lump sum could be worth more or it could actually be worth less in 4 years. Even with your pension might be worth a little bit more because 4 more years of service, but your lump sum could actually be less in 4 years from now.
And the reason...
Or more.
And the reason... So we're going to answer your question broadly, but you're not going to land on a decision until the day, the week, the month before you go to retire. And
Okay.
every pension plan is different, but here's how the lump sum is calculated. They take an interest rate and a life expectancy, which may or may not be the IRS.
May not be your life expectancy either.
But it is a life expectancy based upon a life expectancy table, a mortality table, and there's a number, strangely enough, there's a number of different mortality tables. So they take that. So let's just say right now they use the 3% interest rate. I don't know which one they're using, but let's say they're using a 3%. They take your life expectancy according to this table, and they take this 3%.
Let's say it's 30 years. As an example.
30 years. They look at this. This is how they look at it. I take $785,000 and I put it in an account and I pay it to Gina over the next 30 years. At the end of 360 months at a 3% return, that account will be empty. Now,
or conversely, they'll say, how much money do we need to have set aside for Gina so we can pay $5,000 a month for 30 years at a 3% interest rate?
So
that's how they come up with the 785.
So what happens is if interest rates go to 4%, your lump sum will go down. If interest rates go to 2%, your lump sum will go up, which is exactly the inverse of how most people would think of this. And the reason is the lower the interest rate they're using, the more money they need to set aside in your name.
Just like if they assumed a 0% interest rate, then it'd be easy. $5,000 a month times 12, and then how many years would we expect Gina to live? That's how much would need to be set aside. But they assume they're going to earn something.
So what drives the decision in 4 years is this. How much other money do I have set aside? Is there risk there? Does it make sense for me to take that risk? What we like to do is figure out what's called a hurdle rate or a rate of return that you need to perform on your own portfolio in order to generate that $5,000 a month. So that's the first decision you make. The second decision is you look at your life expectancy realistically. So if you're in perfect health and your parents lived until they were 102 and your siblings all lived and there's no medical history, then you have a longer life expectancy because the life expectancy they're using comes off a table. Conversely, if you're in poor health and you're smoking 2 packs of Camel no filters a day and drinking a fifth of bourbon, then
take the lump sum.
Take the lump sum, right? And then the last thing you look at is what are the other assets? So if you said, hey, I've got $2 million set aside and I have no debt, you'd take the lump sum, right?
Further, I think we don't want to ignore what your investment history has been, how have you reacted to other markets, because even when in a low interest rate environment like we're in today, it's still difficult to earn returns above those figures. And it takes a very disciplined investor. So someone who's hasn't had the best experience investing with their own 401k or IRA, even would be more likely to say just take the monthlies. So at least we know that you're not going to make poor investment choices and blow through your cash.
So the answer to your question is talk to us in 4 years. But
is your home paid for?
No. Since I won't have it paid off by the time I retire, I decided instead to have the lowest payment possible.
Beautiful.
So I'm currently refinancing into a 30-year fixed at 2.875.
Beautiful.
We like that.
Have you been to one of our workshops?
I absolutely have.
Okay. That's exactly what we say.
Whether it's the right or wrong advice, it's our advice, so we think it's beautiful.
That's a good point.
Well, and when other people at work ask me, I tell them if you can't have your house paid off, that's the first choice, to have it paid off. But if you can't, you want the lowest monthly payment you can.
That's right.
And what do you?
Because you'll be on a
what do you have
income.
in your 401k and IRAs?
So my 401k for most of my life, I've been very, very conservative. I had like a 50-50 split. And recently, my financial planner had advised me if I want to be less aggressive after I retire, which would be my preference, I need to try to be more aggressive now. So my 401k is at a 70-30 and about $185,000 after all the market fluctuation. And my IRA is a 60-40, and I have about $375 in that.
Good for you.
And then I'll have Social Security, and then my pension. But for a long time, I was thinking with the pension, take the lump sum, reinvest. I could do better. But then with the recent fluctuations, I thought, maybe I'd be better off with a set amount that is guaranteed basically to me.
One more factor on this. The older you are, the harder it is to make the lump sum work. So let's say you were retiring at age 84, right? At $5,000 a month. Your lump sum would be nowhere close to $785 because they're like, this lady's not living. How many more years she can possibly live, right? It wouldn't be that long. So if, on the other hand, if you retired at 50, like, whoa, we got a long time. So the lump sum would be larger. So the older we get, the smaller that lump sum is. At this point, all things being equal, if interest rates were exactly in the future as they are today, I think we would lean to say take the pension.
That's right. But there's a caveat. So we didn't get to all.
Take the monthly payments.
Yeah, if you were making the decision today. But the caveat too is we'd actually have to look to see how much your pension benefit is over the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation minimum insured value of that monthly pension.
No, it should be fine at 65.
At $5,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's something I would look at.
Can you take a partial?
A partial lump sum?
I don't know if that's
Probably
one of the.
not.
I don't know if
probably
that's
not.
one
Gina,
of the options. Apparently, there's multiple options you can choose from, but when you're single, there's fewer options.
You don't work for a medical system, do you?
I do.
And will your health care be impacted if you take the lump sum?
It should not be.
Well, if you're working for the UC system, it may be.
I am not.
Okay. All right. So also, one other thing. The advice you got from your advisor to increase the equity exposure was good advice. And the reason is you've got to look at
I did it the day before the plummet.
Okay, it doesn't. But the reason, the reason it was good advice is if you add all those things up and then add $785,000 to the IRA and the 401k, your overall equity exposure is 25%, maybe 30%, because you added up the IRA, right? And then you added up the 401k.
But you didn't add up the lump sum.
But you didn't add the lump sum. And the lump sum, you have to look at that as a bond portion of your portfolio. It's all fixed income. So while you said
if I have the lump sum and I reinvest it into stocks and bonds.
But you don't right now.
But right now it's all in fixed income.
It's guaranteed, regardless of what happens.
Right? So the decision you make in the future is a decision you'll make in the future. We just can't make that decision today. But based upon what you're telling us, you're doing a great job. You're thinking about it. You're taking appropriate steps. You just can't force this decision on pension or lump sum yet. It's too far out. We don't know enough.
Okay.
All righty. But now you understand
reevaluate 3 to 6 months before retirement.
And then also figure out what date they calculate that lump sum. What's the interest rate they calculate the lump sum? Because there are some organizations that they'll announce 2 weeks prior, oh, by the way, here's the interest rate that we're going to be using for the following quarter or the following year. And so you might say, well, I'm going to retire. Instead of retiring on the end of the month, I'm going to retire the next day. Or some pension plans, the first day of your pension is the day following the day in which you retire. So if you retired on the last day of the quarter, your pension is going to be calculated based upon the following quarter. So you just need to pay attention to those things.
And a good advisor actually
Well, I
will.
don't know that they give us all that information.
No, they
no,
might.
no,
I know
no,
you
no,
say you
no,
don't
no,
know, but those are
wait,
things you.
wait.
That is what you need to know before.
It's published, right? So it's published what interest rate they're
Yeah.
using. So so they don't give it to you, but it's all It's published. They have to with the DOL, the Department of Labor. They have to.
It's all there.
Give the plan
Don't-
documents.
but here's the bottom line, Gina. Right now, wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. Don't
I
do
would.
it.
I would lean. Right. I mean, and if suddenly you found out you had a terrible terminal illness, you would retire early and take the lump sum. So right now, I wouldn't give it a lot of odds are at 65, you'll take the pension based upon
I'll take the monthly payment.
yes.
Odds are,
Okay.
but
You never know.
you never know. It depends on your health and the other assets and what your objective is. But as of now,
Yeah. And we appreciate the call, Gina. And if you take the monthly pension, obviously it gets transferred to an IRA, so it maintains its tax deferred status, and you only pay tax when you pull the money out. Because we've seen people make horrible mistakes with pension lump sums.
yeah, and Scott, the day you retire from some of these is significant differences in the lump sums, 20, 30, 40,000.
I remember, Pat. This was years ago because we've been doing this a long time. There was we had a client that zero risk tolerance at all, like really skittish about things. But the U.S. Treasury bonds we could take a lump sum, invest it 100% in U.S. Treasuries, guaranteed by the federal government, and have a higher monthly income than the joint survivor that was going to be offered through his employer.
And would leave a lump sum to his heirs or her heirs when he died.
He would have the entire principal. Wouldn't he be drawing down the principal? His principal would be intact. And he had seen another financial advisor before he came and saw us. And this other financial advisor says, oh, no, never take the lump sum. And so I'm having this I'm like, well, that's the worst advice ever to say never take the lump sum because
It ignores everything.
at that point, you'd be only a fool would take a monthly pension. If you can go out and buy U.S. government bonds.
Which are safer, by the way,
Yes.
than a pension. Safer.
Yes. All right, let's continue on with calls. 833-99-WORTH is our contact number. Jeff, you're with All Worth's Money Matters.
How's it going, Scott and Pat?
Awesome.
I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
So I did a loan modification in 2009 with Countrywide. And after I did the loan modification, my
I'm
payment
sorry,
went down, of
Jeff,
course.
do you have us on a speakerphone?
Oh, yeah, I could turn it off.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
That works. So anyway, I did a loan modification in 2009 with Countrywide.
Okay.
And the Countrywide, of course, lowered my principal, whatever. What my question is, I have a second mortgage that's gone to collections. I just don't understand how I would have a second mortgage when I already redid all my first through my loan mod.
Did you have a second mortgage back in 2009?
Yeah, but it was B of A is now my carrier from my home. I have never missed a payment since 2009. And they assured me that everything was included in the loan mod.
Do you have documents on that?
I do. But I keep getting statements from this collection. I don't know if I should name it, but
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not going to matter.
We don't care.
real-time solution.
Oh.
Anyway, And it occurs interest, but it never occurs any late payment.
Okay.
And it also says it may or may not be a lien.
Okay.
So
Which means it's not.
it's not.
Yeah, correct. Because if it was a lien, they would let you know.
Right.
What are they saying you owe them?
Well, the original balance, Scott, or Pat, which one's which?
Pat. The smart one.
Pat. I listen to you every Sunday. I love it. The original was 55. I was completely upside down back then. So it was 55, and now it's gone up since then to like 67-ish.
So
But that's just,
here's
Yeah.
And how's your credit?
my credit's great.
Okay, so here's what I suspect happened. I suspect that somewheres during this whole thing, you may have had a small equity line of credit or something, or they might have done what they call piggyback loans at the very beginning, which is they would do an 80% loan to value, and then you take a second in order to get to a 90% or 95% loan to value. That's what I suspect happened. And when they remodified the loan, they did it on the first, but not on the second. At that point in time, they may have released the liability or the lien on the property, but then sold the bad debt to a collection agency.
They did, exactly. That's where I'm at with it, I think.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get your opinion.
Yeah, and so when they sell the bad debt to the collection agency, when they say it's either a lien or not a lien, and by the way, you can actually go to the county recorder's office and see who actually has the liens on your property. So
Yeah, I've been meaning to. Every time I mean to go, there's like something or another, like now we can't even go because of the virus. But yeah, I wanted to.
Okay, so that's where I would start.
And there may be online tools to do the same thing for you, I guess.
If there is no, other than your first mortgage, if there is no other encumbrance on this property,
right,
I'd ignore them. Because they probably...
I have been ignoring them since 2009, but now I just finally... the other thing is when I refinance, when I go to refinance, which I'm going to do, because unfortunately my interest rate's high because I never redid it, that... it will show up then, or it won't show up then?
That's right. That's right. So I wouldn't worry about it. What happened is this collection agency probably bought this debt for 8
pennies,
8 cents on the dollar, or 6 cents, or 3 cents on the dollar. And,
exactly.
And they're just swinging at it. And when they say it may or may not have a lien, good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Well, that's what my tax guy said. He goes, I can write you a statement right now and you owe me money. So
that's right. I would ignore them.
What's happening, though, my concern is that I was fortunate enough to get that loan mod and hang in there. So I'm at 70 now on my house, which is worth, a lot more. But my second, this stupid thing, is creeping up to almost more than I owe.
But we don't know if it's a second. So when you go to do a refinance of the mortgage, they'll tell you whether there's a second on the property.
I would tell you refinance, and I'd work with a mortgage broker, someone who's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
And because he or she is going to know more than the two of us is going to.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I'm about ready. Yeah, I'm about ready to do that.
I would do it now. I wouldn't wait.
Well, no, I'm in the union. I keep changing jobs, so I'm trying to keep a good record of everything. So I'm about ready to go.
So I would just call a mortgage broker on.
I would engage with that mortgage broker now. Say, here's my situation. Here we know what rates are, and figure out the best. Maybe you pull the trigger immediately. I don't know.
Yeah, and they'll tell you whether this is.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate the call.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. And if you'd be so
kind. Debts that they bought, that's probably they're just.
Well, there we go.
Oh, there we go. That was talking to a spouse. I was going to tell him to, if you'd be so kind as to write a review for.
That's why I had the speakerphone. He wanted his wife to hear, and you so rudely cut her out of the conversation. Sounds like a male chauvinist.
She can listen. She can listen to the show or the podcast and get to the same place. We're trying to produce a quality product here, Scott.
So you care more about the quality product than you do for
I might.
Women.
No, whoa!
I'm just based upon the limited evidence in the last 60 seconds. 3 minutes.
How do you know a spouse is a woman?
Oh, fair enough. Okay, I'll grant you that. Thank you.
All right. So who's the idiot now?
That was good. I'll get to that. That was good. All right.
All right. What's now? What do we do now?
One thing this pandemic has shed a light on, well, a couple things, which we've talked before. Obviously, you can't predict the markets, and the importance of being diversified, because there's been certain investment theses that no longer hold up. You look at the fracking industry with oil prices.
Boom.
I mean, you want to talk about a disaster, both in oil and natural gas. It's just been
correct.
A lot of people.
And all those businesses surrounding.
A lot of bankruptcies there.
The pipelines, transportation, refining.
How about all the houses they built in Fargo?
Just a whole plethora.
Nursing homes.
Which, 2-3 years ago, the predictions were that these nursing homes that the supply that was needed was going to be monumental. And they were financed and built with that in mind. And where are the nursing homes now? They can't fill them up. because no one that cares about their parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles wants to put their relative in a nursing home right now. And it may be like this forever. So what you're actually seeing is a change in actually how homes are now being designed.
Yeah.
In order to provide support for an elderly parent or grandparent in the home itself. So this is why you don't ever bet all on one thing.
And be careful if you own something outright or with a partner, when you've got debt. You mentioned nursing homes, Pat, and I thought a client years ago, she did a 1030, 1035 or 1031. I was
1031.
1031 exchange. 1031 exchange into a property as a tenant in common.
Maybe it is a 1035. It's one of the two.
1035. In a tenant in common into a nursing home, and was writing checks for capital calls each month because the nursing home was not full.
In a tenants in common.
Yeah. Anyway, we're taking a quick break. Stick around for more Allworth's Money Matters.
Can't get enough of Allworth's Money Matters? Visit allworthfinancial.com/radio to listen to the Money Matters podcast.
Welcome back to Allworth's Money Matters. I'm Scott Hansen.
I'm Pat McClain.
I almost said Hanson McClain. I was right in my...
It used to be.
Yeah,
Why did we change our name? I get that question a lot, and I forget.
Well, the organization's grown dramatically. I mean,
we now provide tax services, Medicare planning. We interact with estate planning attorneys on a regular basis. So we thought the word Allworth better encompassed what we do, which is all of someone's worth.
By the way, on estate planning, some states have really simple probate processes. And I'm not an attorney, so I'm not trying to give you any legal advice here. But my understanding is Texas, as an example, very simple, easy, inexpensive. California, where I reside, expensive, time-consuming, laborious. My father passed away last December. Now, he had a 3-page will that was 20 years old.
I'm surprised he had that.
I was too. I didn't know. I know. But he had a house, retirement account, a couple of other things. Not a sizable estate. So he passed away in December. I'm a financial advisor. I've been doing this for 30 years, right? So you think that I understand the process fairly well, which I do. The estate is still not settled, although the house has been sold. The attorney's fees, we're getting close, but it's probably still a couple more months before a judge signs off on it. And the attorney's fees are actually less than the statutory fees because I renegotiated, but are going to be $14,000.
Wow. And you decided to use an attorney rather than do it yourself just for...
Yeah, come on. Well, there's a lot of hours gone into that.
Yes.
A lot of hours have gone into that.
You could do it yourself if you so chose.
I have other responsibilities.
And there's a learning curve.
Yes.
In the whole bit.
And so my point is, if you are a resident in a state that has a cumbersome probate process, get a living trust.
Get a living trust.
Had he had a living trust, this would have been settled
weeks and weeks.
Simple.
And by the way, if your estate, everything you own is more than a few $1 million, let's call it 3, you should pay close attention to what's happening in legislation and a new administration coming in. Because the amount that someone could pass on estate tax-free right now is at...
A couple can pass on like $22, $23 million.
We haven't seen that much ability to pass on money since the day of the robber barons. It's such an astounding number. It was an astounding number when they actually put it into legislation.
Isn't there a year that we had...
zero.
Yeah, 2010.
Zero. Zero.
Quirk in the law.
Just a quirk. But if you have a fairly large estate, I would anticipate that there was possibly changes coming up in this.
And that the estate tax exemption is going to drop back down to a couple
Eight.
million, 3 million.
I would be surprised if there was a change in presidential administration that it did not go down.
Well, and odds are it's looking like there will be a change. And
Yes.
I mean,
According to the polls, which
yeah, and
may or
if-
may not be correct.
Well, and according to I'm not a gambler, but if you look at the odds right now are in favor of Biden, who has said he wants to increase capital gain taxes and reduce the.
And a good financial advisor will hopefully
I'll agree with you. If your state's larger, then
keep an eye.
maybe do some planning. Maybe have some thoughts that, and if you're concerned that there's some changes post, mid-November before there's a change, then you have a chance in 2020 to implement
get
something.
things out of your estate, which means gift them now before your death, which actually has its whole nother set of complexities. Gifting.
Well, and I also would be if I were a betting man, that assuming that Trump is not reelected, that we're going to have an elimination of the step-up basis, or at least some reduction of the stepped-up basis at capital gains upon death, because that makes no sense
It
whatsoever.
doesn't make any sense.
Which is essentially, if I bought a piece of property 30 years ago for $10,000 and it's worth $1 million today, and I'm married and my wife and I own it in community property, whether
And it's
in
an
a trust or not.
investment property.
It's an investment, just a piece of land or whatever, right? I paid $10,000. If I sold it today before I died, I pay all capital gains and all that. If I die, my spouse inherits that with a cost basis stepped up to the fair market value today, essentially eliminating all those capital gains.
Which makes it's interesting. So if there is
Well, you know why? When Trump made the changes there, he's a real estate guy. So
yes,
that's
they allow tax-free exchanges, but you can't do tax-free exchanges on most stocks.
yeah, but you can real estate.
But you can real estate.
Yeah.
Which,
That's why they don't. That's why he hasn't released his tax returns. Of course not.
that and maybe there's but quite frankly, I understand why people want their tax returns released, his tax returns, and I understand why he doesn't want it released.
And you're Switzerland on this. Is that the thing?
I am.
It's kind of irrelevant at this point.
It is. It doesn't.
What, we're going to judge his character based on that?
Oh, all right, let's go.
Okay.
We're getting into
833. Well, I mean,
we're allowed to have our opinions.
I try not to be too political, and the reason is I want to be a great financial advisor for people, period.
Yes.
And if I was seeing professional advice in my own life, whether it's from an architect or a marriage counselor or whomever, I would hope that they would keep their politics to themselves, and we could just have a conversation with what my situation is, and I can get the best advice possible.
There we go.
So that's why we tend not to talk about politics too much.
But we do actually talk about changes in the political environment. They may affect your finances.
And I'm not going to say wwhether I'm supporter or not. This is reality of things.
That's how it's going to work.
833-99-WORTH is the number to be part of Allworth's Money Matters. 833-999-6784. We're in Northern California with Lorraine. Lorraine, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you, Lorraine?
I'm fine. Enjoying my vacation.
Oh, well, good.
The reason I'm calling, yeah, it's kind of nice. The reason I'm calling is I am 55. I am eligible for retirement at this point from my job. I want to retire soon, if possible. I am currently renting, and my rent, obviously, in California is going up and up and up, and it is the major factor that is stopping me from retiring.
Okay.
So in my train of thought is to buy a house so that I can stop that 5% or whatever, that upward mobility of my rent. keep it under control.
Would the house be in the same area that you're renting, or would it be in a lower cost?
No, I would try and keep it in the same area I'm renting.
Okay.
Simply because I've been in this area for 30 years. I'm single. I have 2 children they're not around. I mean, they are, but they're not my responsibility anymore. They're adults.
And
Okay.
you're in a town called Manteca, which is east of the Bay
And now
Area.
we're east of the Bay Area. Now we're south of Sacramento.
Yes.
So is
Home of the famous water slides back in the day.
really?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, we
It
used
was.
to.
They're not here anymore, but yes, it was.
We used to go
They're
there
now
as
home
kids.
to multi-million-dollar. They're home to very expensive houses now.
And what's interesting with the coronavirus and with the work from home, we're seeing downward pressure on prices in the Bay Area and in some of the big cities. But in the bedroom communities, we're starting to see some real estate markets that seem pretty hot. Is that what it is in
they're
Manteca
not-
right now?
I've been paying they're not lowering. The prices at this point are not going down.
So let's talk
No.
about your finances. You're thinking about buying a home. How much money do you have in the bank or in savings or in brokerage accounts outside of an IRA or 401k?
Next to nothing.
Okay. And how much money
And that's where my problem lies.
How much money do you have in an IRA or 401k?
In the 401k, I have $103,000.
And
You say you're eligible for retirement. If you retired today, would you receive a pension?
Yes, I would.
how much would you receive?
Almost equal to what I'm bringing home at this point.
Okay, so you work for a state or municipality, is that correct?
No, I work for UPS.
Wow, that is a nice pension.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Can you afford a mortgage payment right now?
What are you paying on rent?
I'm paying $1,375 right now until October for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath duplex.
And would you
Duplex,
get a
not a
smaller? Would you get a smaller? If you bought a house, would you buy a smaller house?
I'm not opposed to a smaller house. It would depend on pricing and where it's at. I mean, I'm not opposed.
And
to
you
a
say you
two-bedroom,
want to retire.
one
If
or
you
two.
retired, you're 55, right? So you're relatively young. You've got a lot of years ahead of you. If you retired tomorrow, what would you do with your life?
I don't know.
Okay.
I say I want to travel and do things like that. I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure.
Well,
what I
traveling
wanna
right
do.
now
Do I
might be
wanna
limited to
travel?
Lodi or.
Stockton.
No one's traveling. You can't travel right now.
Oh,
You got to
God forbid,
stop.
not Stockton.
Maybe
No,
go
no,
south
I
down to
don't wanna
Fresno.
go.
That's a big
Go a
trip.
little further down Bakersfield.
That's a big
I
trip.
have family that lives in the Midwest, so I mean, I go visit them. Am I
Well,
talking
all right.
trips to
Which
Europe?
is actually just
And
Probably
if you
not, but-
work another 5 years at UPS, will your pension increase significantly? Or will it at all?
About my 401k will, because I'm
Yeah.
dropping so much into it right now. But my yes, my pension. If I work for every year I work from this point on, my pension, I think it's $100 or $200 a month.
Okay.
It goes up.
So here's what I want you to do. I want you to contact a broker, a mortgage broker, and find out if there's
Right.
any of the zero down
Yeah, there are.
that you would qualify for. And you may
Okay.
be considered a first-time home buyer, which actually may even help. You know,
You can also
Now,
take a
I
loan
had
on your
one before.
401k.
you could take a loan on
I
your
love
phone.
the idea of buying a house, by the way, because this is you brought. I mean, you've seen it firsthand. The problem with renting has its advantages, right? You don't have to worry about things. Something goes wrong, there's one number to
Right.
call. I mean, there's some real advantages. The downside is it's the inflation, and we go into retirement, and suddenly your rent goes from $1,375. 10 years from now, it's $1,875. 20 years from now, it's $2,875. Right? I mean, it can get really costly. You get a mortgage, that mortgage payment will never change.
So I would advocate, and you may want to involve a financial advisor on this. I would advocate that because your pension is so large, that my guess is that you should work at least another 5 years, possibly 7
Maybe.
or 8. And I would stop the contributions to the 401k and maybe see if she could swing a 15-year mortgage or
Oh.
a 10-year mortgage.
That could make more
Well,
sense because your pensions.
Well,
I mean,
that's
you
what
pay,
I was thinking, because
and
right
you have
now,
Social Security
I'm-
will be coming in.
Right. And I follow it on my little website. They have a little map to show you, where you're at and the gap of what you're earning versus what you're going to need and that kind of stuff. So they have one of those. I'm on a Prudential website.
But your pension's equal to your salary.
Yeah, so it doesn't. So Scott, I would actually take it one step further. She's single, right?
Yeah.
She's single.
Right.
Your kids are taken care of. You've got some money in the 401k. I would actually look at maybe doing a 30, doing 7 and looking at paying it down to 50% loan to value over the next 7-8 years and then converting to a reverse mortgage at that point in time. There's so many things you can do.
Yeah, that's actually interesting. That's an interesting concept.
I could sit here and give you 7 different scenarios.
What you've got going for you is a great pension.
That's it. It gives you a lot of room to play. If you didn't have that pension,
we'd have a very different conversation right now.
It gives you a lot of room to play. And you've got large contributions, according to you, going to your 401k. What you don't have is cash for a down payment. That's why you want to start with a broker. So you want to find...
That's not a big deal. I think you need to do this. You'd be crazy not to.
Find the house price range, not that particular house, but in the price range that you're going to buy in. And maybe it's in Manteca, maybe it's in Tracy, I don't know. And then you say, okay, how much is this going to cost me on a monthly basis? What loan programs do I have available to me? And then we find the down payment. So you can take a loan out of the 401k. That may make sense. And then once you use that loan from the 401k, make those monthly deposits back to pay off the loan on a monthly basis rather than making contributions to into the 401k. I'd look at either a 10, 15, or 30-year mortgage. I would look at...
with the rates right now, I would probably do a 30-year mortgage.
And then amortize.
And pay extra and say, how much would I have to pay to try to get this thing paid down? And you might want to look at a mortgage that has what's called a one-time re-amortization. So let's say you had a $300,000 mortgage and you worked for the next 5 years and you worked really hard to get it paid down and you got it paid down to $150,000. The mortgage company then would say, oh, you have 25 years left. The balance is $150,000. Let's recalculate what your payment should be now, and your payment would drop dramatically by doing that. So that's something to look at.
You should buy a house. What I'd like you to do is to listen to this podcast of this call again, because we just threw a ton of information at you.
You did.
And so when you listen to the podcast again, I want you to take notes. The one-time reamortization, I didn't even think of that, Scott. That's a great idea.
Okay.
Yes.
I do have a question. So currently, I am putting 11%, 9% and a 2% catch up because of my age into my 401k. Should I stop doing that so I have more cash? Because I can't go anywhere until October. I'm on a lease until October.
Yeah. So sure.
Is that going to make tax-wise? Is that going to make if I drop that down?
Yeah, you're going to pay a little bit more in taxes.
Stop putting in at all?
Yeah, correct. You're going to pay a little bit more.
I'd talk to a mortgage broker tomorrow.
But that may make sense for you. And when did you say October? If you start the process now for a home, you might be in by October. Probably be in by October. So start the process and stop the contributions. And you said, well, listen, we'll increase my tax liability. Yes, but we're driving it at objective here.
And you're probably better off, I shouldn't say probably, you would be better off buying a used house, a previously built house, than a brand new one.
Absolutely.
Okay, because all right, just...
the wall coverings, the yard.
Very expensive.
Very, very expensive.
Yeah.
So you want a previous...
I was even looking at foreclosures.
The problem in the foreclosure marketplace, it's not a big market at this point in time.
No, particularly when you're going out.
Yeah. So anyway, appreciate the call.
Yeah.
Great job, by the way, raising those kids, getting them. What did you say? You don't have to worry about them anymore. That's how you started. I thought, well,
teach me that one.
They're old. They're adults.
I know.
I don't worry about them because they're adults. They have to. I mean, I worry about them. Don't get me wrong.
Yes,
they're
that's what I think, Pat.
They're not living with me, so I don't have to worry about them 24/7.
That's right.
It's funny. I appreciate the caller, right? And it's like whenever my kids are home and they're out or something, it's like, wake up, like, are they home?
That is
my daughter's 24. Where's my daughter? Is she home? She was home. This happened on 4th of July weekend. She was home. She was in her bed, and I didn't realize that. I thought she was still out. It's 1 a.m. I'm texting her. I'm like, what's wrong with me?
Then
I have all these bad thoughts going through my mind.
Scott,
It's hilarious.
I had the same. My wife's like, well, what time did he get home last night? I'm like, I don't know. He's 21. He's 20. He's been living on his own for a year. What time did he get home last night? I don't know.
Well, you worry less about your son than you do your daughter.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Total double standard.
Yes.
All right, let's continue on with calls. 833-99-WORTH.
And then we argued by the fact that I didn't know, nor did I care what time he came in. My wife's like, you need to really, we need to really find out what he's been doing because he can't come home this late. I'm like, when he's away, he comes home whenever he wants.
Come home that late?
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yeah.
There's like a curfew? He's 20?
Yes.
That's hilarious.
I'm like, when he's away at college, he comes home whenever he wants, right?
Oh, Mom.
Yeah. And then we got to argue about that. So I got that going for me.
Well, that's good. Then you should maybe get all your arguments done with for the
I got that.
moment.
That's right.
That's strange. You argue with your wife.
Well, not really. It was just it's on account of the COVID.
Yeah. 833-99-WORTH. Let's talk with Trevor. Trevor, you're with Allworth's Money Matters.
Hey, Scott and Pat. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Yeah, our
I've been
pleasure.
listening to you guys for years. I kind of consider myself to be the self-appointed president of your unofficial fan club at this point.
Oh, well,
I'm very
thank
excited
you.
to talk to
Wow.
you guys.
Listen, I've always wanted a fan club with more than one member, that being me.
Well, right now it's just me, but we're actively recruiting. So
Okay. Well,
Good luck on that.
Good luck to you. What can we do for you?
yeah, so here's my situation. I'm 35. I'm married, no kids. We're fortunate to have 2 incomes. But here in a couple of weeks, I'm actually going to be leaving behind a 10-year career in the federal government to go into a private venture with a partner. So for a period of
Is this
probably,
a business you're starting? You say private venture with a partner. Is this something
Yeah,
that's already going
correct.
on, or you're starting something new?
We're starting something new.
Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, so for about probably 6 to 12 months, I'm probably going to have little to no income. So our household income is going to be reduced by probably about 60%. And kind of looking at some of the financial decisions to make surrounding that, I wondered if it was a good time to maybe take advantage of some Roth conversions with our tax-deferred accounts.
Yep.
So when I started looking into that, though, there's a lot to consider, and it's a little intimidating. Our time horizon, we're probably not going to retire for about 25 years. We are already relatively tax diversified with our savings. I would be happy to move some funds out of my federal thrift savings plan into something with possibly higher fees. So there's a lot to consider, and so I was just curious if you guys thought that was a good idea, and if so, potentially, how much should I look at moving, and how should I go about doing it?
100% think it's a good idea. You made the comment of moving from the thrift savings to something with higher fees. I disagree with that. You can get ETFs that are just as rock bottom price, so you can build the same portfolio with really low fees.
And actually have a much more broader selection inside of an IRA than a TSV.
But this is all predicated upon what your overall family income is for 2020, come December 31st of 2020.
And possibly 2021, because you said you didn't expect any revenue on this thing for 9 months?
Well, I'm just kind of projecting. I mean, I would, on the safe side, I think, 6 months to a year without any, real measurable income. Could be sooner than that, or it could take longer. So yeah.
So
I'm
what's
not
but
100% certain yet.
but what's your family income going to be already for 2020? When your wife's going to be working the full year, you've got more than half a year.
Sure. So right now, our annual income, as it stands right now, is about $210,000 per year. And then as soon as I leave my job, that's going to drop to about $85,000 annually. So somewhere in the middle, I guess, for 2020.
Yeah, so 140.
Yeah, 150 probably for the year.
Right there. So,
And you live in California? Or what state are you in?
We're currently in Maryland. We'll probably be moving
Maryland.
back to California at some point.
What's the state income tax like in Maryland? Top rate.
I'm off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I think it's on par with California. It's relatively high tax.
So I would defer the decision till December, and then I'd probably do projections out to 2021 to see what you thought the income looked like in 2021. But I wouldn't make a decision now. I wouldn't make it until the end of December. My guess is that you'll probably, if you end up doing it, You'll do it in 2021.
Do you have much cash outside? Part of the challenge is when you do a Roth conversion, you got to pay the taxes now. So the taxes have to come from somewhere. So it either comes from money that's in your retirement account, which negates some of the point of it, or it comes out of some money you've got saved up somewhere. And if at the time when you're starting a new business,
you want that cash.
Yeah,
usually.
and so our cash. So we have about $40,000 cash, and then we have a brokerage account with about $90,000 in it, and there's very little gain in there. So I'd consider if I were going to do it, I guess I would have to take the cash from one of those two
That's
buckets.
right. So $130K in cash. So here's I'm going to speak for Scott, because he looked at me and I'm like, I know what Scott's thinking. Scott's thinking that opening a business is really, really difficult, and you're going to run into some headwinds that you did not expect that may require cash. And the objective of opening the business is to grow your net worth and or lifestyle around what you want to do. And that $130,000 in cash, if you do a Roth conversion and give it to the government,
or some of it,
you're not getting any of it back. Is that what you were thinking,
Yes.
Scott? So you're thinking
that, and if your taxable income from the year was going to be $40,000 or $70,000, and you were clearly in a 12% marginal tax bracket, then it's a no-brainer.
Well, that's why I said you wait till December, and then my guess is you're not going to do it for 2020, but you may do it for 2021.
But you hope not to. I mean, I'm hoping
That's
your
right.
business
I
is
hope
going.
that you make so dang much money that you don't, you can't afford to do it. Chances are, right?
Here's what I would worry about this come November. I would give it no more thought. I'd spend that energy figuring out how we're going to make money in the business.
Okay, and so I did have a question for you, Trevor. I think that's good advice. I assumed you're vested in your 10 years with the federal government. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. That's all I wanted to make sure. You said you were a devotee of the plan. You knew how important that vesting was at 10 years of the federal government. So
Yeah, and
Correct. Yeah, that was why I chose to stay right out to 10 years.
Yeah. Well, you're a poster child for good financial planning. I mean,
Call us.
And
at,
good luck with your business. I think that's great.
Call us at any time.
And frankly, when we started Hanson McLean, I was married, no kids. It's an easier time when you've got a spouse bringing in an income.
Oh, absolutely, like Trevor does.
Yeah.
So we're going to actually call Trevor back in 6 months and see how the business is going.
All right, let's do that.
Yeah.
We're out of time. It's been great being with you this weekend. Hope everyone's enjoyed our program, and we will see you next week. This has been Allworth's Money Matters.
This program has been brought to you by Allworth Financial, a registered investment advisory firm. Any ideas presented during this program are not intended to provide specific financial advice. You should consult your own financial advisor, tax consultant, or estate planning attorney to conduct your own due diligence.